Hello, good evening, and welcome in to State of the Tigers on PowerMizzou.com. Missouri football on a bye week. We never take a bye week. Cody Goodwin, Gabe DeArmond here. That's a lie. Sometimes we take a bye week. We're just not taking a bye week right now. Brought to you every single week by our friend James Carlton at State Farm Insurance in Webster Groves, Missouri. Big news out of James. He was already licensed in the states of Illinois and Missouri. He is now licensed in the state of Kansas. We do not probably have huge fans in the state of Kansas, but those of you who do happen to live across the state line, you can now take advantage of James's services. Get in touch with him at 314-961-4800. You can also go online, carltoninsurance.net. Get a hold of him that way. Cody, you spent the day the way, your Sunday the way I think everybody wanted to spend Sunday, which is rewatching Missouri and Massachusetts. That sounds, I don't know, it doesn't sound great, man, if I'm being honest.
It was, it's funny when we're like at the game and we kind of like we're in the press box, so we're obviously separated, but we can feel the energy of the crowd and the buzz of the game. And like we have to kind of walk in and around and sometimes through tailgates to get from where we park to, the stadium. You can feel the energy and the buzz. And there wasn't really a whole lot of energy and buzz when we were at Faroe on Saturday. And so I guess like being able to like remove myself probably, I don't know, I guess I watched it less than 24 hours after watching it the first time. I was able to just kind of like focus on some things. And so like there were a couple of like, oh, okay, that was kind of neat, moments while rewatching the game. And also like it was just confirmation that like, yeah, Mizzou was the better team. They knew it. UMass knew it. Everybody in the stadium knew it. Let's just kind of, roll this thing out and get it over with. And that was, it was kind of one of those things where like, sometimes we'll watch a play live and like, I think I've leaned over to you in the press box and I'm, I'll be like, I want to rewatch this. I want to like reserve judgment. Our initial reaction to that initial game on Saturday, that it was boring, that it was dull, that it was lifeless, confirmed in rewatching the game. There really wasn't a whole lot to it.
Well, here's the good news, and do want to remind you guys, questions, comments, we will get to those. Thus far, they are about who's wearing clothes and how attractive Cody is. So good comment section thus far this evening. Continue that if you would like, but if you have actual questions, we will get to them. But there was buzz. Like I thought the parking lots were good before the game. It just all kind of died down. But you know what the good news is about playing that game on September 28th? On November 11th or whatever it is, when everybody else in this league is playing the Citadel. And I mean, somehow 9 teams play the Citadel that day. But whatever, Missouri's going to actually have a real day. So I don't have a problem with that game being scheduled. It just kind of came at a different spot in the season than it tends to come for a lot of SEC teams.
Yeah, and like the weird part is like for Mizzou and really for everybody, like, that was kind of an old, I don't want to say everything weird about the SEC scheduling kind of started with Nick Saban, but I guess like until I hear otherwise, I'm going to give Nick Saban the credit that like scheduling one of your bye games, one of your non-conference games, one of your FCS opponents in week 13, like I understood why he did it, because sometimes you get through a good chunk of the SEC season. It's like, okay, like we need a breather here. Right. And so, it's 2025. Who knows when the games this season were scheduled, probably too many moons ago. But like, I do wonder if like that's something that, especially with the SEC going to a 9-game schedule now, that maybe Eli and Laird Veach and they're maybe a little bit more cognizant of that, of like, hey, maybe we should, if we only got 3 non-cons and 2 of them are gimmies, maybe we should kick one of them to like mid or early November just to give the guys maybe a break before they finish out the SEC schedule.
I think what also mitigates that now is that they have 2 bye weeks. I mean, Missouri played 5 games, they're off. They play 3 games, they're off again, and then they play the last 4. I don't know that you necessarily need to throw a game against, Southwestern Wichita Tech in there to get healthy. Jay's asking if they'll ever do away with the Cupcake games. I mean, never is a long time, right? As long as we are all playing the same sport, they won't do away with them. Now, if we get to a point where the Power 4 schools go do their own thing, then will there be any, cross, like everybody still has a G5 game to keep the G5 kind of alive and able to fund their own thing? I don't know.
I wouldn't mind, because I've seen Tennessee do this, like the Vols do this. They will play, a smaller G5 or FCS in-state team. Wouldn't mind if, like, way somewhere down in the future, Mizzou schedules like a Lindenwood, just to.
Yeah, Mizzou. I mean, they've played SEMO and Missouri State before. Missouri State, I think, is FBS now, which is weird.
I think they're in Conference USA. Yeah.
Yeah, they're generally terrible games. Nothing all that good ever comes of them. I don't like the games, but I understand why they have them. Look, as long as we're on this subject, and we'll get to some more Mizzou specific stuff in a minute, but as long as we're on this subject, I don't think since we've started working together, we've talked about this. Where are you on the SEC, Big Ten, or Power Five, or whatever splitting away? Like, are you for that? Are you against it? What's your opinion?
I mean, it's coming, so it's like you might as well buckle up and get ready for it, right? Like, if I've learned anything covering SEC ball the last 2+ seasons, it's that just seems to be where we're headed. And I think we've talked about this too on a previous podcast, where it's like, I think we will truly hit that moment when the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Texas turn around and they're like, well, why are we revenue sharing with Vanderbilt? Or, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan turn around and say, why are we rev sharing with Rutgers and Northwestern? Like, once we hit that moment, then I think it'll be pretty quick that we'll start to see kind of the larger brands start to break off and maybe form their own league. So, I mean, I'm generally indifferent, but I feel like it's coming. So at this point, it's like, just, buckle up and get ready.
So here's where I'm at. I'm fine with the Power 4 breakaway. Because look, these schools all play in Notre Dame. Like, these schools all play a different game than UMass and Lindenwood and these teams we're talking about, right? But what I'm not for is whether it's just the Big Ten and the SEC, or whether it's like the 32 biggest brands in the country saying, no, let's go form a less talented version of the NFL. I still want, Boston College and Maryland and whoever that might be that isn't in the top 30, but is in the top 65. Like, I'm good with the 66 team breakaway or whatever that number is now. I would be less interested if it was just 30 and like you had an AFC and an NFC and it's just the same 12 games every year. That doesn't really get me going, because here's the other thing. Like, where does it, I don't know what the right number is, but if let's say you're at 36, I think right now in the SEC and the Big Ten combined. So how are those 36 figured, right? Like, any breakaway's got to have like Clemson and Miami and Florida State. So who doesn't get included? And where honestly is the number where Missouri's not included? Like, they're included at 36. I think they're probably included at 30. I'm not so sure they're included at 24.
It'll be interesting to see, like, whenever the breakaway happens, what's the cutoff going to be, and like what are going to be the reasons for it? Because I mean, you had mentioned like the 30 or 35 or whatever biggest brands. Like, well, okay, like what determines how big a brand is, right? Like,
I assume it's your budget.
It might be that, but like, is that fair to teams that have been winning? Is all of a sudden Texas Tech now in that, because they've got a bunch of money coming in? Like, that's, so then what does that mean for, some of these other schools that may not have quite the same budget? Do you take winning percentage into account? If so, like, Missouri's probably safe, right? Because they've got 10 wins over the last couple of years. So I don't know, like how they draw that line, I think is going to be really interesting. Like, I know that the ACC, when it comes to their the money, the rev share that they split among their conference, part of it is broken up because of like how many eyeballs do you draw over the course of a season. So like, is that a metric that's going to take into account? So,
which is why Missouri and A&M and everybody left the Big 12, because that's how the Big 12 was, and the SEC isn't. So it's a whole different thing that, look, everybody's going to talk about. Aiden wants to know if the Big 10 and SEC do non-con games against each other, who would be the most likely team to play Mizzou. So that is a thing I would actually be cool with, right? The SEC's at 9 games now, which the Big Ten has been saying 9 games. I'm fine if the Power 5, the extra Power 4 game for every team is, okay, now let's do the Big Ten SEC Challenge in football and match it up, the way they do right now. I think it's like SEC, ACC in basketball. I I'd be great with that. I mean, the logical one is Iowa or Illinois, but what I hope it is like okay, you finished 10th last year. You're facing the 10th place team from this other league. I think but I don't think the Big Ten wants that because like the Big Ten would be fine in the top 4 or so of those games. The SEC would destroy the Big Ten from 5 to 16. We were talking about it earlier today. I mean, that's the difference between the SEC and anybody else in America is if you're in the Big Ten, you're going to have 3 games on your schedule where you don't really have to show up, right? You're going to play Northwestern and I don't even know who's in the Big Ten, UCLA and some other crap team. I mean, Minnesota. And you're going to win those 3 games without playing well. In the SEC, they're like Missouri's easiest game is at Arkansas. And I don't think Missouri can just not show up and necessarily win that game.
Yeah, no, they've got a good offense. I think that's when people talk about like the depth and the strength of the SEC, like that's really what we mean, right? Like, and I know that, Ohio State and Michigan have won the last 2 national championships. That's great for the Big Ten. That's awesome. But if you did a Big Ten SEC challenge, which one I think would be amazing, but on top of that, it might be a little complicated just because of all the different TV contracts and who gets what games and how
the numbers.
Like that. It would just, there's probably a few too many logistics to actually line it up like that. As amazing as a weekend like that would be, if you just knocked it out all in like week 2 or 3 or 4, like what a way to start off the college football season. But like, if you were to line them up like that, like you mentioned, the top of each, 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, 3 versus 3, 4 versus 4, those might be really good games, but the SEC would probably mop them up because from 5 on down, because you're like, who's the 5th best team in the SEC? Like over the last how many years? Like Ole Miss, Tennessee, potentially Mizzou,
Missouri, Ole Miss.
And they would be playing Iowa. Like that's, I feel like the SEC would feel pretty good about that. Right. And then you've got those other teams are going to file in and they're going to play Illinois. They're going to play maybe Nebraska. And then they're, it wouldn't be a fair fight when you paired them up like that. So that's when we talk about like, why do people love watching the SEC? It's like, that's the reason. There's so much depth and you have to show up every single weekend. And we've seen really over the last couple of years that if you don't show up and if you don't come correct, looked at Alabama going to both Vanderbilt and Oklahoma last season, and they lost both of those games because they did not show up. They did, in the words of Kalen DeBoer, they did not handle success correctly. And if you don't show up in the SEC, you're going to get your tail kicked.
I've actually got the one that Missouri would be scheduled against, and it would make perfect sense. It's Nebraska. Like you get Missouri, Nebraska going again. That'd be fun.
I honestly sign me up for that. I think that'd be kind of cool.
What would be like if you got to make Missouri? Okay, we're doing a Big Ten SEC challenge. You get to make Missouri's schedule a home and home with who in the league in the Big Ten?
I mean, I think Nebraska would be fun just because of the Big 8 history there. I feel like they play Iowa every other year in a bowl game, so meh.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, like, maybe if USC gets their act together, that could be a fun little pairing just in terms of like where they're both at in the hierarchy of their conferences. Plus, we're talking home and home, so like you and I would probably get to go to LA. That sounds pretty cool. Can they get it at the Rose Bowl? I know that's usually where UCLA plays, but like I think they could maybe adjust some scheduling to make that happen. The Rose Bowl, I think, is gorgeous. And I know they've already got Illinois on the schedule in the future. So, I don't know, like Washington, I think Washington would be kind of fun depending on where they're at. That's, you're talking home and home. Like we saw I don't know if you watched on Saturday, what Ohio State was playing Washington, like just when they had the drone footage coming in on Montlake and just the view of that place, like that looks gorgeous. Like now I'm just thinking of places that I want to go visit while Mizzou plays.
That's how I answer all these. This is all selfish to me. And I've got 2. I would love Happy Valley. I would love to go to Penn State once. That would be cool. The other one, I would love to go to a game at Camp Randall. Okay. Like I have heard Wisconsin is an amazing place to go to a football game, and Madison's a great town. I've never been there. So those would be the 2 that I would just selfishly want. But I kind of forget about Washington being in the Big Ten, but I would absolutely sign up for that too.
Yeah, I'd sign me up for Washington. I think that'd be really cool.
All right, so we didn't have actual things we were going to talk about. None of the first 16 minutes were we planning to talk about, but now we're getting to it. All right, so look, okay, let's get to Timmy's super chat first. Always appreciate that, and if you give us a super chat, you'll get on the screen and we'll answer your question. The last Bama game, I said, I haven't even read this. I may be making a huge mistake. I sat back to back with my wife's father in the Furrow men's room. Yeah, I'm not going to finish reading that. But
the bye
Timmy,
week has people going a little stir crazy.
I appreciate the super chat, man. That was I don't mind if the voicemails are out there like that because those are other people's voices. I just didn't want to continue to read that in my voice because then it would be on a radio show or something. But Timmy, thanks for hanging out, man. I've completely lost my train of thought. I'm wrecked. Missouri's 5-0. They've gotten through the first, I think everybody expected them to be at least 4-1, but 5-0 was the hope. They've gotten through this stretch. They now have a 3-game stretch and then another 4-game stretch after the second bye. We all know the goal is 10-2. I still remain, I think, more confident than you that 10-2 is very likely to get you in the playoff. But even if not, the goal's 10-2. So give me a reason to feel good. The reason you feel best about Missouri's chances to get there, and then the reason you feel worst about Missouri's chances to be there. And the reason you feel worse can't be they play hard games. Yes, we know they play hard games. That's cheating.
I think the reason for confidence, and it's probably your answer too, but it's the obvious one. They can run the damn ball, man, and they can run it really, really well. The offensive line seems very uniquely suited for run blocking. And then on top of that, you got Ahmad Hardy, who never goes down on first, second, third, or sometimes even fourth contact. You've got Jamal Roberts, who is breaking tackles, and he's got some home run hitting speed. Marquise Davis and Tavares Jones, I thought both looked really, really well. They have an embarrassment of riches at running back right now. I know Ahmad Hardy's kind of the star of the show. And if they're able to establish the run, then they're able to set up some of the play action drop back stuff with Bo. They have some deep receivers, but the ability to run the ball is what opens up everything with this offense. And so why am I confident that they could get to 10 wins? It's because they can run the ball, and they've shown that they can pretty well run it on everybody. Now, the defenses are going to get tougher. I am especially interested in that matchup against Oklahoma in Norman. That is a nasty defense. It's a very salty defense. They don't really let teams run the ball, and they can get after the quarterback. So, we're going to talk about the hardest remaining games later. I may have just given away what I think my number one hardest game for Mizzou is remaining on the schedule, but that's really kind of the big one that it's like, okay, let's see if they can really run the ball on the Sooners. But outside of that, I don't see why they can't run the ball on anybody else left on their schedule. So that's really what gives me the most confidence.
I agree. And because it allows you to do things like when you're playing Alabama, to limit the number of possessions they have, right? Missouri leads the country, maybe second now in time of possession. They're keeping the ball for something like 36, 37 minutes a game. It was what teams started doing to the Chiefs, like Mahomes' third year, right? Well, we're just not going to let you be on the field as many times. You might score 6 of the 8 times, but you're only getting the ball 8 times. So we have a better chance. And that's clearly, I think what gives you the most hope about this team. And I have a feeling we will have the same answer about what is going to keep them out of it. I've got 2, but the obvious one is, yeah, they can run the ball, but can they keep other teams from throwing the ball? And I don't know that because the only 2 that they've had with capable quarterbacks, frankly, have thrown the ball very well and probably should have thrown the ball even better than they did.
I agree with that. The secondary is what's maybe given me the most worry because, the offense is going to move the ball in addition to be able to run the ball. Bo's done really well in the passing game. They're ruthlessly efficient moving the ball. So, that's an obvious area for confidence. Defensively, they have all the pieces. They brick wall stopping the run. They've got linebackers that can clean up everything. They've got depth at both of those positions. They have depth in the secondary as well. But yeah, they still have to play a lot of really good quarterbacks. And on top of that, some of those quarterbacks have really good receiving cores. Looking at you, Alabama, right? Ty Simpson has really come along. And I was really impressed with the way that he played Georgia last Saturday in Athens. So, you pair the fact that they have to play Ty Simpson. They have to play Diego Pavia. They have to play, we're assuming John Mateer will be back in time for that Oklahoma game. You mentioned the Arkansas game. Mizzou can't just show up and expect to win that. Taylon Green is a playmaker, right? He can chuck it around the yard. He might throw it to you at times, but he'll throw it around the yard. And we know with Bobby Petrino calling the shots there that they're going to be able to move the ball. So can the secondary make enough plays to give you confidence that they can do it? And in the 2 games that they've been tested in so far against Jalen Daniels in Kansas and Lenora Sellers in South Carolina, they've given up some explosive plays. And so that's the worry. Even if they are able to run the ball and limit the other team's opposing possessions, we've seen that if the other team can hit on some explosive pass plays, time of possession really doesn't matter. It's going to be a close game in the fourth quarter. Mizzou might even be behind. And so that's the obvious worry, is that at some point they're going to give up one too many explosive plays, and it's going to cost them a game.
I like Mike's comment. It's the break but don't bend defense. They don't give up anything, but when they give up something, they give it up. I'll give it all up. The only other thing that I'll say, and I've said this, like, there's going to be a game that comes down to a kick. I don't know which game it is, and South Carolina wasn't that game because they had a 6-point lead. Like, that was to ice the game. It was not necessarily to win the game. There is going to be a game that comes down to a kick, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I have no idea. He might go well, might not. We just don't have any idea. So I think everybody knows the pluses and minuses of this team at this point. So the next thing that we had on our agenda was they've got 7 games left, and we go toughest to easiest. So I think you said you think the toughest game on the schedule is Norman, Oklahoma, right?
I think that's the toughest game left, mostly because
I actually agree.
Oklahoma's salty defense, and that game's in Norman. I know Mizzou has looked great this year, but we don't know how they're going to play on the road yet. And so that, to me, just all those things together is what makes that game really intriguing, and what I believe is probably the toughest game they've got left.
And look, I like Missouri wanted to get South Carolina back. I promise Oklahoma wants the guys who were there for that game last year have that Missouri game. Like, Oklahoma fans are going to be beside themselves if they come into this new league and Missouri beats them twice in a row. And then you got to play them every year. Like, they don't want any part of hearing that for the next however many months. So I promise that game's big to Oklahoma. And I agree that's the toughest one. My number 2, I think it's pretty easy, is Alabama at home.
That's what I had. That's just especially after seeing what Alabama did at Georgia. And I know I kind of mentioned on the post-game show on Saturday that there could be an element of trap gaminess in this Missouri matchup for Alabama, because you look like you knew that they were going to be focused on Georgia coming off a bye. You know they're going to be focused this week. I'm talking about Alabama because they host Vanderbilt. They want to get back. And then after Mizzou is the 3rd Saturday in October. They host Tennessee, another game that they lost last year. Granted, that one was on the road. So I was a little skeptical of the Crimson Tide going on the road and playing really well, and then they went and beat Georgia. Granted, it's not the Death Star Georgia, but the fact that they were able to go between the hedges, play really, really well. They took an early lead. The Georgia's defense adjusted, but they were still able to hang on. Ty Simpson made a lot of plays, both with his arm and his legs, to ultimately close that game down. I was really impressed. And so, yeah, that was the easy number 2 in terms of toughest games left on at least the way that I ranked for Missouri's remaining games. And it's a big one because it's the next one.
Yeah, no question. I think I think Alabama's probably the best team left on the schedule, but just because of where the game's played, where it falls on the schedule, that's why I went with Oklahoma. What's your number 3? I'm torn between 2 here.
I had to kind of, I don't know. I wrote this down really quickly before we jumped on, but my number 3 is I think it's Texas A&M at home.
That was in the running. I don't know whether it's that or at Vanderbilt. They're both 3.5 for me. They're both just like split the difference.
I feel weirdly confident about Mizzou going into that Vanderbilt game. And I know it's on the road and it's in Nashville, and Vanderbilt looks like they are a legitimate team this year. But for whatever reason, I feel a little bit better about just the way that Missouri matches up, because I know Vanderbilt's got dudes on the defense now, so we'll see what they can do in terms of maybe stopping Mizzou's run game. But like, Vanderbilt's offense really does kind of go through the run. And I know Pavia he threw for 5 touchdowns last week against Utah State. Their offense, I think, goes more through the run game, and Mizzou's defense is a brick wall when it comes to stopping the run. And so for whatever reason, I feel, I don't know, this is a feeling that has been developing over the last couple of weeks, that I feel a little bit better about Missouri's chances against Vanderbilt. And I had Vanderbilt a little bit lower on my list in terms of toughest games left. But I look at Texas A&M, and they're kind of similar to South Carolina, where they've got a lot of dudes. They've got a dual threat quarterback who probably doesn't have as strong of an arm as Sellers. I'm talking about Marcel Reed now, but I think he's going to be a little bit more of a threat to run. And Mizzou has done well stopping Daniels and Sellers from a rushing perspective. But I think Reed's just a little bit more slippery, and they've got athletes all over the field. Texas A&M does, and so I just that's another one where I think that one's after the second bye, right? So Mizzou's going to have that benefit of 2 weeks of prep for that game. I think they're going to need all 2 weeks of prep for that game because I don't know. Like I came into this season thinking that like Missouri's probably better than Texas A&M. I don't know why. Like it was just a feeling that I had coming into the season, and nothing I've seen so far has really made me change my mind on that. But just, I don't know. Sometimes I see some of the A&M highlights and I'm just like, I don't know, man, that's going to be a tough game. That's a pretty good team.
Yeah. Somebody had just asked, how does Mizzou have 8 home games this year? Is this normal? No, it is not normal, and it will not continue. I'm not sure how it happened exactly. The KU series, it happened that this was their home game in that series. They will normally, I believe, have 7 home games. So like when they have 3 home non-con games, well, yeah, because they're only going to have 3 non-con games. So when they have 2 home non-con games, they will have 5 SEC games at home, and when they have 3 home non-con games, then they'll have 4. So if A&M was your 3rd, was Vanderbilt your 4th, or is Vanderbilt somehow lower than 4th?
I put Vanderbilt was lower than 4th. I actually have the game at Auburn as the 4th toughest game I left, and that's mostly because I've been to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Weird things happen in that building, and I know Auburn. There are some stylistic differences that I feel pretty good about Mizzou in that matchup. Like it doesn't look like the offensive line for Auburn's very good. I know Oklahoma racked up 10 sacks. I think Jackson Arnold's been sacked 20 times this season, but he doesn't seem to, he's not throwing the ball very well. And I know Hugh Freeze's offense is kind of more designed to run first, then throw. We know Mizzou's probably going to stop the run. There's Auburn's got some dudes on defense that I'm kind of curious to see how they match up with. So I think that combined with the fact that it's at Jordan-Hare, that one kind of leapt out to me as like, yeah, that's going to be a tough one. So probably 4th of the remaining 7.
Okay, I had Vandy, A&M kind of tied for 3rd. Auburn is 5th, and here's first of all, I'm just not a Jackson Arnold believer. I'm not. Second of all, Auburn lost a tough one to Oklahoma. Lost a tough one to Texas A&M. They host Georgia in, I believe that game's in 2 weeks. If they lose that, like at 3-3, team, like you don't know which way a team's going to go, right? There is a chance. Now, look, there's a chance at 3-3. Hugh Freeze gets his team to go, look, if you can get Missouri, you got Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy, Mercer next. Like we can get on a roll and we can go 8-3 into the Iron Bowl and we can ruin Alabama's season and we can have ourselves a hell of a year. So that is possible. It is also possible at 3-3 that some guys, maybe aren't quite as bought in as they were after an 0-3 start in the SEC. And so I want to look up Vandy's schedule too, because I know Vandy's schedule is fairly murderous.
It's brutal.
And Vandy's got at Alabama, then home against LSU, then home against Missouri. They're at Texas next. But here's the difference. I don't think, even if Vandy loses the next 2, I don't think there's going to be any quit in Vandy at 5-2. Like those kids are, that program probably would be far more excited to be 5-2 hosting Missouri than maybe Auburn would be to be 3-3 hosting Missouri.
Yeah, no, that Vanderbilt team last year lost to Georgia State, then lost to Missouri, took a bye week, and turned around and beat Alabama. Like Pavia has injected a different level of confidence in that program that I don't know, have felt since maybe the James Franklin days, if not even long before then. So even if Vandy stumbles before they play Mizzou, like that's a team that's going to be fired up. They go as their quarterback goes, and I don't know that I've ever seen Diego Pavia switch it off. So yeah, still going to be a tough one, even if I think Mizzou matches up with them stylistically pretty well.
And then we agree Mississippi State 6th and Arkansas 7th, right?
That's how I had it. Yeah, Mississippi State at home is the 6th toughest game, and then at Arkansas, even though that one's kind of for whatever reason, I just feel kind of funny about it because, like, especially now that Pittman's out and Petrino's in as the interim, and like they can clearly move the ball, even though Notre Dame shut them down. Just there's something about like Mizzou needing to win in Fayetteville to like secure whatever their future might be. That like
Right.
I don't know, like it's got a weird vibe at this juncture of the season.
The interesting part about that one to me will be if Missouri goes down there 9-2, which I think there's a decent chance that they will. And look, here's what Arkansas's got. At Tennessee, probably a loss. Against A&M, that one's always weird, probably a loss. Host Auburn, host Mississippi State, could win those. At LSU, loss. At Texas, loss. So, like, I think Arkansas is going to be playing for nothing, but they could be playing for wreck Missouri's year, which I know it's not a rivalry. I know they never think about Missouri down there, but I imagine they would like to wreck Missouri's year. And number two, like, what if they've looked pretty good on offense and at the end of that game, Bobby Petrino rides a motorcycle back into the stadium with a signed contract that he is the full-time head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks?
That would be that would be incredible on so many levels.
I mean,
it would be incredible on so many levels.
Yeah. I would, like, I might write my column on that if that happens, rather than anything with Missouri. I might just write about Petrino if that happens.
Yeah, no, I agree. That the game in Fayetteville is, I think it's the easiest of what's remaining, but there's still something about it that it's like it's not going to be easy by any means. We are talking about the SEC.
I agree, but that's a true. You want to talk about we have no idea what team is going to. I mean, we could see 2-9 Arkansas that day, who hates everything and doesn't even want to be there. By the way, excellent selling point from Hunter Yurachek today. Asked if Sam Pittman had the resources to succeed in the Southeastern Conference. He said no. So I would think that is a beautiful selling point for your next head coach. Hey, we have not supported this program enough to win. Would you like to be the coach of it?
He said something to the effect of like, we are ready to win a national title in basketball. We are ready to win a national title in baseball. We're not quite ready to do that in football yet. So, you know, that's God bless whoever interviews for this job.
Right. I mean, maybe Petrino gets it by default because it's the only place that'll hire him and nobody else wants it.
He's expressed interest, and he might be the only one after that press conference today. So we'll see.
If Bama loses to Vandy, they'll show up at Mizzou like a wounded lion. But if Bama beats Vandy, we might actually have a shot. I honestly think those things tend to be a little bit overrated. The week-to-week momentum and this game and last game. I mean, I think it matters if you've got a team that's lost 4 in a row and you're playing in week 10. I'm not sure the Vandy result has any impact on Bama. I mean, I'll be honest. I expect, you want to talk about revenge games, I expect Alabama to come out pissed off and very, very good in that game against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, they are gonna be hitting in that game, and they are gonna want to make it a point to not just beat Vanderbilt, but like really put those guys in the ground. Like that. I know that those guys down in Tuscaloosa, they were pretty pissed about how that game ultimately unfolded last year. So I would be shocked if Alabama doesn't come out and win by multiple scores.
So we got a super chat here. Ron Davis wants to know how much to start doing walk and talks. Are you familiar with our friend Trey Biddy's walk and talks?
Yeah, he usually, because he used to just walk back to his car and do it. But now I think on the most recent one, he walked around the stadium before he got up and walked out. He
takes a circuitous route now because there tend to be some feelings he's got to get out. And I say this in like, I've been friends with Trey forever. We started at Rivals back in like 2003-ish together. And, you know, like we joke about it all the time. I'm like, Missouri fans are sending your children to college by hate watching the walk and talks, man. It's look, he's got a thing that works for him. It would not work for me because like I just wouldn't be all that T-Rise is their chatter about drink to Arky. No, I've got a story tomorrow that should probably kind of shut down any thought that he would entertain the Arkansas job. But their chance to get him was 6 years ago, and he didn't really want it then. I can't imagine he wants it now.
Yeah, that's wait for Gabe's story tomorrow, guys. That'll shed a little bit of light and probably quiet those types of comments, at least on our board. I don't know. Although
that was before Hunter Yurachek's comments that they don't support their program. So maybe that convinced Drinkwitz that he should get a seat. Maybe he's made a call and said, that sounds phenomenal. I would love to have no money. Let's do this.
Oh, man.
But this is kind of a good segue. We wanted to spend the last 20 minutes talking, and we'll answer your questions and stuff. But the last few minutes talking about the SEC, and we've done a little bit of it. But I mean, I found the SEC football scenario generator today, and we were messing around with it. And like, I know you did SEC rankings. I did SEC rankings in 10 Thoughts this morning. Dude, this league is ridiculous. Like, there are 10 teams that I think will sit there on October 1st with reasonable playoff hopes or expectations.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is like there's a lot of ball left, and like I know Ole Miss has kind of jumped ahead of the pack here. They've got 3 conference wins already. They're 5-0, really nice win over LSU. But like Missouri, only 1 conference game in. Oklahoma, 1 conference game in. A&M, 1 conference game in. Alabama, 1 conference game in. Like Texas hasn't even played a conference game yet. Like there's so much left to be decided here. And it keeps coming back to the thing I keep saying whenever we're like trading texts on Saturday, like watching and following all these games, like, is anybody good? We don't know. Like, I have no idea who's good and who's not. And so I think we learned a lot over the month of September. I think we're going to learn a ton more over the month of October. And hopefully as the month unfolds, we start to see a little bit of separation and maybe some tiers start to form. But like right now, like I have Mississippi State is better than I thought they were. Or at least we're going to be.
But I still have them like 10th or 11th.
Yeah, but like some are saying they probably should have beaten Tennessee. Like they probably should have beaten Tennessee, right? So then how would that have made us feel about Tennessee, right? Because Tennessee probably should have lost to Mississippi State, but also probably should have beaten Georgia. So like, what do we make of the Vols? What do we make of LSU? Like, I've never been particularly high on LSU. And then I saw their defense, and now it's like, all right, can their offense get the act together? That's also kind of the same argument for Texas. They've really only played 1 big game, and the offense has kind of stumbled its way through the rest of the non-conference schedule. Like I don't know who's good yet, right? Like Alabama.
Here's what this all leads to, because I think a lot of people are good. I'm not sure anybody's great, but here's what that all leads to me. There's almost no chance anybody gets through this thing at 8-0. I think 6-2 will get you to the conference title game. You will have to win tiebreakers to do it, but I think 6-2 will get somebody and maybe 2 somebodies to Atlanta.
I see no reason why not. Like, I can't really push against that yet because so many of these teams still have to play each other, right? Like Mizzou still has Alabama, Oklahoma, A&M. Alabama and Oklahoma are going to have to play each other. Alabama's also got to play LSU and Tennessee. Georgia still has to play a bunch of these guys. A&M still has to play Texas. Like Ole Miss, like I know that they've still got Ole Miss actually might be in the clear. They've got Georgia and Oklahoma.
They've got Oklahoma and Georgia. Yeah.
And both of those are road games. So like, are they the 6-2?
Yeah, but if they win everything other than that,
right,
6-2.
They'll be sitting at 6-2 and they'll be sitting really pretty. So yeah, I mean, thank goodness for that tiebreaker website that we found. I used it mostly for like basketball last year, and I think near the end of football season, because I think there was a chance when Alabama was going to Norman to play Oklahoma that if they just won out, they were going to go to Atlanta, and then they got stomped on by the Sooners, and I think Georgia clinched the spot that night in Atlanta. So, and then that led to Texas A&M, and the winner of that game got to Atlanta. So yeah, it's like, there's so much football left that it's hard to like, and I know I do the SEC poll for 24/7 every single week. So like, but even that, like, especially after this week, it's like I had LSU near the top or at the top for a good chunk of the start of the season. And then they lost. And then it's like, all right, well, maybe I'll put Ole Miss at the top, but then Alabama beat Georgia and I still have Texas near the top. And like, I just don't feel good about the poll that I submit to Jordan every week because like, I'm like, I don't know, like maybe this is right.
Yeah, like last week I had Georgia 1, and I had Alabama like 8 or 9. Well, Alabama went to Georgia and won, so I just put Alabama 1. Like, I don't know. I actually think they might be the best team in the SEC, but it's all a mess and it's all going to get sorted out. But really my point here was like, nobody should be talking about 12-0. In the NFL, nobody talks about 17-0. 17-0 is not realistic in the NFL. I mean, you have a team, if you have a team once every maybe 15 years that makes an actual run at it, right? But that's a generational team. The only way you're getting through this league if you're 8-0 is if you were 2019 LSU. And I don't think anybody in this league is 2019 LSU.
Or 2020 Alabama.
Yeah. That's fair. But there aren't many of them, and I don't think there are any of them this year. And so, like, we're talking to Missouri fans here, and we got a couple hundred of you online. Like, just prepare yourself. There's a loss coming. There's probably 2 losses coming. Like, if we're being realistic, and I don't know which one they are. Like, this is the mistake we make every season. We go, well, you beat this team, and that team looked bad here. So here's what's going to happen the next 7 games. What I think is going to happen the next 7 games is probably at least 2 losses. I can't tell you which 2, but like, I think there are 2 losses here somewhere. I could see Missouri individually winning all 7 of these games. Missouri is not going to win all 7 of these games because the thing is, you're not going to play an A game every night. And if you come out and you play a C game like you did against UMass, that C game it's going to lose most of the rest of the games on your schedule. And I don't think there are going to be nights they play an A game, but there are going to be nights they don't too.
Yeah. Well, and what does Drink like to say? That the other team has a say in the fight as well, right? So like, sometimes you could play a B+ A- game that might win 9 out of 10 times, but if the other team plays an A+ game, sometimes you just throw your hands up because all the shots are going in, right? Like, to turn it into a basketball analogy. So, and then there's going to be other nights where, like, you may not play very well, like you may put forth a C- effort, but the other team, flunks the test. And so it's like, sometimes you can get away with one like that. I think, and you have maybe made this comment either in passing or on the board too. Every week from here on out, basically, when you're watching SEC football, like, you're going to have to think of it like the NFL. Like, you're going to have teams that are going to win more often than not. You're going to have teams that are going to lose more often than not. But anybody is basically capable of beating any other SEC team on any given Saturday, right? Like, the old phrase is any given Sunday. In the SEC, it's almost any given Saturday, right? Like, I think we all believe that, like, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Kentucky, maybe Florida is kind of the bottom of the league. Like, who's to say Florida doesn't come out and beat Texas because Texas's offense still isn't right and Florida's defense is still playing hard, right? Like, there's that possibility is out there, and that possibility exists in every single SEC matchup from here through the rest of the season. So I agree. I think it may very well be 2 6-2 teams that get to Atlanta for the SEC championship game. I'll be curious to see how many teams finish 6-2 and what the tiebreakers ultimately look like, because that's going to be a mess. And I'm glad I don't get paid to figure it out, because that's a lot of pressure. But I think that's just going to make the season so much more fun.
Yeah, Billy's got the college football playoff odds from FanDuel up on the screen right now. There's 9 SEC teams there. Missouri is one of them. I guess the odds say Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, right? And that makes sense with Ole Miss being 3-0. And then Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State in the Big Ten. I'm confident Ohio State and Oregon are getting to the playoff, because if you look at the schedules, like, that makes sense. That's all I'm confident of. Miami should, but other than that, who knows?
I would feel pretty good. This is going to sound crazy. I would actually feel pretty good about Indiana, because you look at the rest of their schedule. I think they go 2 Oregon and 2 Penn State, but that's it. So, like, you're looking at 10-2 and then 2 losses in Big Ten play. Like, they're probably going to be a wild card, but like, they're going to be in that mix.
But here's the problem for me, and what we're going to find out. Like, I picked every game on that SEC website today. I came up with 10 SEC teams finishing 6 SEC teams finishing 10-2 overall. Every one of them should get in over Indiana. Indiana played Blue Springs South, the School for the Blind, and Michigan Polytechnic Institute.
Now, hang on. They played Old Dominion.
Indiana,
and I think Old Dominion's a pretty good team this year.
Old damn Dominion. Come on. That's not getting you in the playoff.
Hey, you put respect on Old Dominion's name. They're going to win the Sun Belt this year. Mizzou's probably going to take their running back.
If that is the justification used to put 10-2 Indiana in the playoff over a 10-2 SEC team, I will then be in favor of the SEC telling everyone to piss up a rope and have their own league.
That's not the justification for Indiana getting in. The justification for Indiana getting in is they go to Eugene, lose a competitive game to Oregon. They stay a top 10 team when they go to Happy Valley, because James Franklin doesn't win top 10 games, and they upset the Nittany Lions, who poured all their resources into this season and missed the playoff.
They're 11-1, and then they're in.
Yes.
But if they lose to Oregon, lose to Penn State, they will basically have a win over Illinois on their resume. Illinois would finish 8th or 9th in the SEC. Like, it's fine, but that's the problem. And look, I don't feel bad for the SEC. You did this to yourself. You didn't have to add Texas and Oklahoma. Like, I am not crying for the SEC, but I will argue that if Indiana is 10-2, I would argue a 9-3 SEC team belongs in over there.
Well, shoot, that almost happened last year with Alabama, and SMU ultimately got in after they lost the ACC title. Or that's exactly.
And I think last year is what will make it. Like last year, I actually agreed. Indiana and SMU won games, put them in, and then we saw what they did, and I think it'll hurt them this time around.
It might.
I think
that's the beauty and also the frustration of the CFP committee is that it's literally a different group of people every year.
Right. So Billy, I know we got some like Mizzou specific questions, so let's hit those before we just ramble on about the SEC. Let's hit the fans' questions before we get out of here for the bye week, and start with Jason. What are you hearing around the secondary lapses in coverage this week? Didn't show if they had been fixed. Still a concern. I mean, look, man, it's gonna be a big test, right? We'll see if they fixed it. They got 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, it's not only is Ty Simpson looking a lot better, but like they've got a bunch of really good receivers. Obviously, Ryan Williams is there, the formerly 17-year-old, now turned 18-year-old superstar, 5-star guy for them.
I don't know how to live in a world where Ryan Williams is not 17, and I'm not reminded of it 36 times every week.
Well, now he's only 18. So, but for my money, he's not even the best receiver on that roster. Jeremy Bernard is. Like he's the guy that I think is going to play a really long time in the NFL because he just doesn't do anything bad. He's just really, really good at basically everything he does. And for my money, maybe pound for pound, one of the best football players that they have on that roster. But then they also have Isaiah Horton, who is a transfer from Miami. They have a couple of freshmen that I know they're really, really excited about. And you have a guy calling plays now in Ryan Grubb, who knows how to use all these bells and whistles, right? And so their offensive line is coming along a little bit. They've got their star running back, Jim Miller, back healthy. Like there's a lot of weapons on that Alabama offense that they're going to use in the pass game that they're going to try and use to really expose Missouri's secondary. So I think the more that we've seen Mizzou against, Kansas and South Carolina more specifically, it's a little bit more, I think, of the safeties, but also just by and large secondary communication at large. I don't know that we really learned if they fixed anything when they were playing UMass on Saturday. I will give UMass quarterbacks credit. Like A.J. Hairston, like that dude put some zip on the ball. It worked when they scored the touchdown. It did not work when he tried to fit it into a window, and that's when Santana Banner picked him off late in the third quarter. So the dude put some zip on the ball. The secondary largely looked fine, but like UMass doesn't necessarily have the same talent as South Carolina or Kansas, and especially not as much as Alabama. So did we learn anything? Has anything been fixed? I don't know, but I know that game specifically is going to be big, not only for the secondary, but like the pass rush as well. Like what are the fun exotic blitzes that Corey Batoon has in his bag? Because you're probably going to want to unveil them. I don't want to say you want to empty the entire bag, but you want to kind of empty the entire bag against a team like Alabama.
And that game it's a strength on weakness game when both teams have the ball. Like Alabama gave up 230 rushing yards. Missouri's path to win that game is very clear. Hand the ball to Ahmad Hardy 35 times. Hand the ball to Jamal Roberts 20 times and only allow Ty Simpson 7 possessions. That's how you get a turnover on one of them, get a stop on the other one. You're going to have to score 30 to win that game. I'm fairly confident. I think on both sides, to be honest. I know there was another question about the pass coverage. Something about having 3 linebackers at safety or 3 safeties who like to play the run, and that. Yes, that's been my thing. I mean, Dalen Carnell is really a safety in name only. He plays the hybrid position. He is more of a linebacker. Look, you had the video of UMass's 1 touchdown. Like it wasn't a big bite, but it was 2/3 of a step by Marvin Burks toward the line of scrimmage, which was enough to get a 6-yard touchdown pass over him after a play action fake. These guys have to be told. You aren't even allowed to look in the backfield. Our run defense is good. I don't care if you help on that ever. You never need to tackle a running back all season long. Just stay back here and play pass defense because that's what you guys really have struggled with. And the other thing I noticed when I did snap counts, look, I know what Eli said to me when I asked the question after the South Carolina game. Jalen Catalon snaps some of them are being taken by Santana Banner. They just are.
I mean, Santana Banner if we trust the PFF grades, and I don't always fully trust them, but like he was the best player defensively for Mizzou against UMass. It was UMass.
I mean,
But still.
Yeah, but like he also made, I thought, the biggest defensive play of the game against South Carolina. He was the one who actually covered Nick Harbor 35 yards downfield and forced an incomplete pass on third down.
Yeah, I would not be shocked to see Santana Banner play a little bit more, especially with a team like Alabama coming to town next, because you're going to need a deep safety that plays a little bit more center field than, maybe Carnell and Catalan coming in and run blitzing a little bit more. You need to trust your front against Alabama's rushing attack and just make sure that you take care of things on the back end. Like, you cannot let them beat you with big pass plays.
That's the thing. The run defense is good, and it's not good because of Jalen Catalan and Marvin Burks. Like, no offense to those guys, but that's not why the run defense is good. I think Corey Batoon should do the Willie Mays Hayes in Major League. Like, every time he hit a ball in the air, he just had to do push-ups at home plate. Every time one of Missouri's safeties makes a tackle in the run game, they should have to do push-ups on the sideline or just on the field right after the play.
Yeah, and then after that, sub out the next one, right? Like, every time there's a penalty or something in the front seven, like, that guy has to walk off. Like, if the safety's helping run defense, you're off the field.
Give some good recruiting news. Missouri got a commitment from Micah Nickerson yesterday. That story's on our site. We've got 3 or 4 recruiting stories up on the front page over there. I mean, I'll be honest, guys. Like, we'll find out. I mean, none of it matters until the last 24 hours before they commit. Like, I don't care if some kid, every kid that visits, hey, love the family atmosphere, felt really at home. They treated me like a man on and off the football field. All that's all great. They're going to announce a commitment time, and then within about 24 hours of that commitment time, we'll tell you where we hear they're going. But recruiting has changed so much. It's just I've kind of lost a lot of interest in it. I know that's terrible business for me to say, but like, that's the truth. High school recruiting, half the kids that commit aren't even ever going to play for you.
Yeah, because they'll either flip their commitment before they officially sign, or they'll show up, play for a year, complain about playing time, and then transfer. Right. So that's just kind of the name of the game.
Either they'll go somewhere for more money, or they'll go somewhere worse because they're not good enough. So yeah, that'll be 50% of them, and that's not Missouri specific. That's everybody. So let's keep rolling. We got a few more minutes. If we got a few more questions here, we will roll through those up until somewhere around 8:00, and then again, it's a bye week for us too. So what jobs would Drink leave Mizzou for? I can think of maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, we don't know, right? But I don't think there are necessarily a ton of them.
Especially like in today's college football world, like, I'm sure that there are some programs that have, better facilities, or maybe they have better NIL setups, or just the recruiting is maybe easier to do it at one program over another. But like, I think it's going to be harder to pry coaches away like that, unless there's just something deep inside them that they want out of their next job, if they want a next job. But like, Drink's got a good thing going here at Mizzou. They are obviously going to be competitive in the SEC for years to come. He has developed the roster kind of in his image and exactly what he wants. Like, I find it hard to think that he would leave Mizzou, but also, some coaches have that dream job, or maybe there's one really golden opportunity, or opportunity that they think is golden that they would leave for. So the list can't be more than 5, I would think, just because of what he's been able to build. And then in today's college football climate, like, it's really hard for some ADs, I think, to be patient. And like, Mizzou was patient with Drink to finally get this thing rolling the way it has been. And not all ADs are patient like that. So it's, like, do you want to leave for more stress, or do you want to keep a good thing going that is going to be competitive for the foreseeable future? I don't know. Coaches are funny like that. I don't know.
And if you're already an SEC head coach, you have a better job than almost everybody in college football already does. Like, Drink strikes me as much more of an SEC guy than a Big Ten guy. Now, that's not to say if Ohio State or Penn State called that I think those are USC. Like, yeah, those are jobs you have to at least listen to. But like, the Florida thing really doesn't worry me that much. Now, hey, I could look stupid on that in 2 months. As I've said, Eli Drinkwitz's opinion and his wife's are the only ones that matter there. But I'm not super concerned about it. I mean, like, as far as non-SEC jobs, yeah, I guess if Clemson calls, maybe listen, but I don't want to be the guy that follows Dabo at Clemson.
Absolutely
like,
not.
You never want to be the guy that follows the guy. I think Kalen DeBoer is
either has found
out or is going to find out. Like, you because nothing you can do is, like, if you don't win 3 national titles, you're not as good as the last guy. if you go to Clemson next, and that's really hard to do. So
yeah, I don't know. Drink may have something on his heart that may pull him to a different program, but like he has built a really good thing here at Mizzou. He's obviously gotten the support, like financial, and fans are showing up and support's showing up in all sorts of different ways. Like, I don't know why he would leave that, but if he does, he obviously would have his reasons, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, Scott Fitz, we're going to finish up with this. Appreciate the super chat. And does Ahmad Hardy lead college football in rushing this season? I know what my answer would be.
Well, what's your answer?
It seems unlikely. I mean, his last 7 games are. First of all, there's a kid at UTSA averaging 10 yards more of a game. If Ahmad Hardy played UTSA schedule, yes, he would lead the country in rushing. He plays Alabama, Auburn, A&M, Mississippi State. Like, it's going to be really hard to lead the country in rushing in this league. I think it's not impossible, but I think it'd be really hard. I think he can lead the SEC in rushing.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely on the table. If he leads the country in rushing while playing in the SEC, like, go ahead and give him the Doak Walker Award, because that's just absolutely insane.
He's not going to win the Doak Walker Award. That's already got Jeremiah Love's first name engraved on it. Like, fair or not.
I see the argument for Ahmad Hardy is if their stats are similar, look at what he did against an SEC schedule compared to Notre Dame.
I just say I know how those awards work.
I think those two, plus maybe kind of quietly Justice Haynes from Michigan. Keep an eye on that. He's a former Alabama guy. You guys can make fun of me for that, but like, putting up some pretty good numbers in a scheme, and he's finally the starter. So
I mean, the kid at UTSA is not bad either.
No, Robert Henry Jr. He's averaging, like you said, 156 rushing yards a game. He's got 7 rushing touchdowns through 4 games. Trying to figure out who UTSA plays this season. He's kind of their Ashton Genty this year, where I don't know that they're going to play anybody good, but like, he's going to be the focal point of every defense he plays from here on out. So we'll see if he can keep that mean pace Genty was able to.
I mean, so is Ahmad Hardy, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it's, I mean, can he continue to keep this mean pace that he set for himself? I am optimistic, but also I still want to see it. Right?
There is a game coming, and it may very well be the next game, where the defensive coordinator says, I don't care if it takes 9 guys in the box. 29 is not the reason you're winning this game. And 9 is going to have to be the reason you win this game.
Well, like, I've told you too.
But there's going to be a day where Ahmad Hardy gets 17 for 55. Like, it's going to happen.
Well, and I've told you too, and I think I've said it on a previous podcast, like, Alabama could very well be the game that does that, because they have a lot of experience and a lot of dudes that they trust in the secondary. So it wouldn't shock me at all to see them load up the box to say, we're stopping 29, Bo, come beat us.
I don't know why that wouldn't be. I think that should be every game from here on out. Not that Bo can't do it, but you've got to make him prove he can.
Yeah. So, and that's what we want to see. He showed it against Kansas, but Kansas is not Alabama. Kansas is not Oklahoma in Norman. Kansas is not Texas A&M. So let's see him do it again.
Exactly. Well, appreciate a couple hundred of you guys spending your Monday night with us here after the excitement that was UMass and the upcoming excitement that is literally no game this week. But still wanted to make sure we get you guys a show. We'll still have PM in the AM every day this week. Might throw together a second show later in the week. I don't know. It just depends on how I feel, what's going on. No opponent to preview, though. But do want to remind you, before we get out the door, get in touch with our friend James Carlton. Again, if you live in Missouri, Illinois, or the state of Kansas, I almost made the mistake of saying the fine state of Kansas, and that would have gotten me many jeers and all the super chats would have gone away. If you live in Missouri, Illinois, or Kansas, get in touch with James at 314-961-4800, carltoninsurance.net. Just let him give you a quote. He's going to do his best to save you money. He's a huge Mizzou guy. You guys can talk a little bit about Mizzou football, talk about how much you enjoyed this show tonight, and do all of those things. So like, comment, subscribe on the channel while you're here. Join us over at Power Mizzou. Going to have am I allowed to call my own story good? Like, I thought it was good.
I mean, I've read it. It's good. You guys need to tune in for this tomorrow.
We'll have a good story tomorrow morning. Have plenty of stuff throughout the week. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. We'll talk to you next time.